That's Parkland Hospital well, you were there when they took him in there, weren't you?
We raced to the hospital. Actually, the motorcade paused for not more than 3 or 4 seconds, I don't think, after the shots were fired and after Mr. Kennedy slumped over on the back seat of the car. At this point, the Secret Service agent in charge, sitting in the front seat, gave the terse order over the radio that communicated with other Secret Service cars in the motorcade to speed immediately to the nearest hospital.
Were you there when the president's body arrived?
Our car was just behind the president's as we moved in toward the hospital. We all, of course, leaped out and ran over to the limousine as I arrived right at the side of the limousine. The president and first lady this is Senator Yarborough of Texas, who was at the hospital, grief-stricken. I talked with him briefly. He sat sobbing openly in a room inside the hospital. But as we first reached the hospital, the president's body was lying in the back seat of the car, cradled by Mrs. Kennedy. There was a minute or two before the stretcher was wheeled out to the side of the limousine, and the president was taken immediately into the emergency ward of the hospital.
And the news reached the ears of the people, and they were stunned.
Crowds being moved back now. Very shortly, you will see shots inside Parkland Hospital. An official announcement from the press secretary and also from a doctor in attendance.
It was almost an hour after the president was shot before the White House announced that he was dead. The president actually lived only about 15 minutes after arriving at the hospital. It took almost 10 minutes to get there. He died roughly 25 minutes after the bullet penetrated his head.
Right after the priest arrived.
This is a doctor at Parkland Hospital who was in attendance at the last moments of the president's life and making the official announcement that the president was dead.
The doctors told us at this time that from the moment they first examined Mr. Kennedy on his arrival at the hospital, they knew there was no hope of saving his life. The president blood was brought in to give the president transfusions during this period of some 15 minutes before he died.
Mrs. Kennedy did not become hysterical?
No, Mrs. Kennedy, throughout this period, both when she went in with her mortally wounded husband and later as she came out walking quietly by the side of the heavy closed bronze casket, she shed no public tears. She simply walked along by the side of her husband.
And I think this display of emotion in Dallas, Texas, could very well stand for the display of emotions of everybody in the world, not only at that moment, but at this moment.
Of course, by this time, a thorough search was going on in the city.
I grabbed a couple of eyewitnesses to it and brought them back to the studio, and all of the policemen who were around where the building where he was shot were running back toward the railroad tracks, back behind, trying to find out who it was. Complete bedlam there at the site.
Now the mortal remains of the president leaving Parkland Hospital. Mrs. Kennedy is in the hearse. All of the curtains drawn.
The body